Ethan Wainwright had always known he was destined for greatness. His whole life had been marked by a sense of quiet superiority, a lingering certainty that he was more important than the world gave him credit for. He couldn't explain it, but the feeling was there, etched into his bones. He was meant to be a leader, a figure of consequence. It was this quiet conviction that led him, at the age of 45, to Dr. Miriam Goldstein's office, a dimly lit room tucked away in an aging Victorian house on the edge of town. Dr. Goldstein was a hypnotherapist specializing in past life regression, with a reputation for unlocking profound truths hidden beneath the surface of memory. Ethan had read about her in a forum on reincarnation and destiny. "I've always felt connected to history," Ethan said, lying back in the deep leather chair. "Roman history, French history, Julius Caesar, Napoleon, leaders." Dr. Goldstein's lined face remained impassive. "You think you were someone important?" "Yes," she nodded. "Let's find out." Her voice was soft, melodic, guiding him into a deep trance. Ethan felt himself sinking beneath the surface of thought, his mind floating weightless on the edge of memory. His breathing slowed, his body melted into the chair. "Go back," Dr. Goldstein's voice whispered. "Go back to the life where you were important." The room dissolved into darkness. A soundless void pressed against his mind. Then, colours, sounds, the sensation of cold steel beneath his hands, marching footsteps, shouts in a language he didn't recognize and yet somehow understood. He saw himself standing before a grand hall of marble pillars. Soldiers in gleaming armour bowed as he passed. A laurel crown was set upon his brow. Caesar, his mind whispered, or Napoleon. This was it. This was who he had been. A man of consequence. "Where are you?" "Doctor." Goldstein's voice floated through the haze. I'm in Rome," Ethan said. His voice sounded strange, hollow. "Or France?" "Look down," she said. He did. His hands were wrong, pale and thin, claw-like. His robes were heavy, black, not the white of a Roman general, nor the blue of a French emperor. The hall was too dark, the air too cold. Statues along the walls stared down, their expressions twisted with disdain. "Where are you?" Dr. Goldstein asked again, her voice tense. He was standing before a throne, a dark iron throne, a crown of black thorns upon his head. Soldiers knelt, not with reverence but fear. His mouth tasted of iron. Blood. "Who are you?" she pressed. "I don't." Then the scene shifted violently. Screams echoed through the darkness. A man knelt before him, trembling, begging for his life. Ethan's own hand held a thin, shining dagger pressed against the man's throat. His hand moved without hesitation. Blood bloomed across marble steps. Another shift. Now he was standing before a massive pit filled with bodies, smoke thick in the air, fires flickering in the distance. Soldiers in black uniforms with red sigils moved about, dragging bodies. A child screamed before a gunshot cut through the air. His mouth curled into a satisfied smile. "No," Ethan whispered. "No, this isn't right." But the memories poured through now, merciless and unyielding. A tide of death and ruin. Piles of bodies stacked like cordwood beneath grey skies. Men in chains, their hollow eyes following him. Fields scorched to blackened bone. The sharp snap of gunfire echoing through smoke-choked streets. Blood and filth congealing beneath his boots. His hands had done this. His mind had willed it. "I don't understand," Ethan's voice cracked. "I was supposed to be someone important." "Doctor." Goldstein's gaze sharpened. "You were," she said darkly, "and you were remembered." Then he saw it. A banner unfurling over a city square, its fabric rippling in the bitter wind. The symbol upon it was unmistakable, a black swastika slashed across a field of red and white. "No," Ethan gasped. "No, no, no." Dr. Goldstein's voice cut through the haze like a knife. "Who are you?" His lips parted, but he fought the answer. He fought the truth as it dragged itself from his throat like something venomous and ancient. "Adolf Hitler," he whispered. The darkness crashed down around him. His mind buckled beneath the weight of it. All the quiet certainty he'd felt his whole life, the sense of destiny, of purpose. None of it was greatness. It was rot, a shadow that had poisoned history. It was the echo of evil carved into the marrow of his soul. He woke gasping, clutching his chest. His shirt was damp with cold sweat. Dr. Goldstein watched him in silence, her face pale and grim. "What did I do?" Ethan whispered. What was I?" She sat back, the hard glint of her glasses catching the dim light. "It seems you mistook greatness for power," she said coolly, "and influence for consequence." "I thought I was meant to lead," Ethan said, his hands trembling. "You were," Dr. Goldstein said. and you were followed. Ethan stumbled to his feet, breath ragged. What does this mean for me now? Dr. Goldstein's gaze was like iron. That depends on whether you believe fate is a prison or a second chance. Ethan stumbled out into the cold night, the sharp chill of the air cutting into his lungs. The echoes of screams still rattled through his skull. All his life he had imagined himself as Caesar or Napoleon, a man destined to shape history, but instead he had been the hand that corrupted it. Now he had to decide whether history would reclaim him, or if he could outrun the shadow of his own soul.